U.S. government to freeze American bank account withdrawals. Freezing American bank withdrawals. Currency panic and capital flight.
I'm looking at you like you're crazy because you came in with so much gusto and
No, this is real.
happiness.
This is
The face didn't go with the words. I was like, wait, what? But it's because you and I were having a conversation right before you hit record.
Doing our calisthenics.
we were stretching and making sure we were good.
Hugh Hendry just issued a major warning, and ironically, G.I. Justin did the same. I did not know he was going to cover the same topic today, but G.I. Justin covered this on his video. But Hugh Hendry just issued a major warning on the U.S. banking system and the American economy as a whole, which obviously this is a huge topic at the forefront of a lot of people's minds. The hedge fund manager says mass panic and capital flight away from the U.S. banking sector is entirely justified. Justified to panic. He's saying it's justified to panic and justified to see withdrawals, money, cash being removed from the banking system, from the monetary system. He says it's justified.
And what is his name?
His name is Hugh Hendry.
And what is he?
He is a fund manager and macroeconomic expert. He's been in the game for a while.
Okay.
Further decline in the M2 money supply, he says, which in part tracks money in liquid checking accounts. So M2 basically knows how much money you have.
Oh, lovely. Okay.
M2 is the money supply. I'm assuming I would be willing to guess M1 is probably business and M2 is probably consumer.
Okay.
Could convince, get this, the U.S. government to step in and prevent citizens from taking their capital out of the banking system. Now, do you remember the video I put up where I explained, you may not remember this, I shot this in Ron's office, in his studio, and it was about the fragile mental construct of the fractional reserve banking system.
Okay.
And how I was telling people not to run and take your money out because
ultimately what happens is what happened at SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, where there's the crash because people went and ran, pulled all their money.
And we actually sat over there and we did a breakdown on how $1 or $100 or $100 million is multiplied throughout the fractional reserve banking system.
Yes.
And by pulling your cash out, it actually pulls out exponential amounts more.
Yeah. I remember.
Sometimes he says that it's kind of relevant to panic. And I would recommend you panic. He literally says, I would recommend you panic. M2 is deposits, not loans. And so I guess there's a way for them to calculate. They can take the amount of deposits overall and take the amount of loans overall, because with the fractional reserve banking system, you can put money in, then they can loan money out. But then you can take that money and put it in another bank, which is ultimately a loan, which further dilutes the value of the money. But either way, it says it's deposits, not loans. And that the deposits fleeing the system and going into the money, they're going into money market funds instead of the banks. And the money market funds do not multiply the dollars like the banks do. The Treasury and the Fed may have to come in and actually, you ready? Restrict your right as a U.S. citizen to pull money out of the U.S. banking sector. The U.S. Treasury and the Fed may have to come in and actually restrict your right as a U.S. citizen to pull money out of the U.S. banking sector.
How about they just learn how to run the U.S. banking sector so that if I want to take money out, it doesn't affect them?
Well, you're talking about the same government that has, I don't know, however many trillions of dollars of debt that they continuously
add on to
print more. Capital flight from U.S. banks, fears of whether the FDIC will insure deposits. He says capital flight from U.S. banks will then lead to fears on whether the FDIC will insure deposits above the $250,000 mark. And this is part of Silicon Valley Bank, where Biden stepped up to the podium and ultimately said that they're going to make depositors whole above the 250. So odds are what Hendry is talking about here in this M2 money supply would be depositors drawing down, taking money out of the banking system, out of the banking sector to get below the $250,000 threshold to make sure that they're protected, make sure they're covered, and then moving that into a money market account or money market fund. And in 1934, the Federal Reserve Act confiscated gold from U.S. citizens. Where at the point where the Fed and he says we're at the point where the Fed and the Treasury officials, I'm sure, are having to consider a gate lock on U.S. bank deposits, which would ultimately be similar to the 1934 Federal Reserve Act, which basically it took away what you had. Okay, they took away your gold, they took away your savings, they took away your safety net and your protection. And in this particular situation, they would then take away your ability to withdraw from the banks, which basically leaves you with nothing. So when it comes to where Americans can place their capital amid the uncertainty, Hendry says that his go-to is U.S. Treasuries and potentially one other place. Can you guess what that is?
Where?
Bitcoin.
Oh.
So we could see money coming out, pulling out of the banks, going into money market funds, U.S. Treasuries, and cryptocurrency. And cryptocurrency is not utilizing the fractional reserve banking system to then multiply the same money. So it's going to retract. It's going to restrict. It's going to eliminate a lot of available funding, capital resources, loans, credit from our overall economy.
Well, that is probably why they're pushing for CBDC, so that you can't do these things, so that it can't hurt the bank. Is that correct?
They would have full control.
Yeah.
So instead now they would have to step in and tell the banks. They'd have to go and they already hang out at.
Maybe this is a way to see how people will react. Okay, if we tell them we're going to take a little bit of control, just like a baby smidge. Let's see if they go up in arms, or if most people are head in the sand, not paying attention, if we can get away with it. If we can get away with that, CBDC, we got this.
Oh, yeah, they've already tested that to see who will comply.
Yeah.
And now they're going to take it a step further. But again, they could easily have their private meeting at Jamie Dimon's, multi-million-dollar Park Avenue apartment or condo, whatever, and decide. And he would literally, more than likely, be him, Brian Moynihan, would be one of the few that would say, yeah, we can make that happen. We'll shut off the withdrawals. Meanwhile, U.S. bank deposits see a decline, the biggest decline in nearly a year. So why would you think that bank deposits are seeing a decline?
I would think bank deposits are seeing a decline because less people are having income come in. So there's nothing to deposit.
That's a good one. Or in fear of not being able to withdraw it, don't put it in.
That too.
Don't put it in.
Yeah. I feel like it's probably a little bit of both.
It is actually. And I'm glad you said that. But first, I want to tell you about the Motley Fool and how they're saying that J.P. Morgan Chase made a smart strategic decision to hoard cash. Hoard cash, okay? They don't want you to have any. J.P. Morgan Chase is hoarding cash. At the end of 2022, J.P. Morgan Chase held more than 15% of its total assets in cash. And the Motley Fool says that the largest bank by assets in the U.S. has been holding more cash than its peers since the pandemic started.
I wonder if BlackRock has anything to say about that, because they're in bed with J.P. Morgan Chase.
Yeah, you don't think that they're sitting there swinging golf clubs together?
Oh, yeah.
So J.P. Morgan Chase continues to hold an outsized position in cash, okay? As the banking system has started to see pressure on liquidity, J.P. Morgan, their choice to hoard cash now looks like a smart strategic move. So as I said before, why are we not doing what the wealthy multi-billionaires of the world are doing? And if we see here that they've been hoarding cash, holding cash, cash is king since the beginning of the pandemic, before we got to this point, before the interest rates started going up, before the Fed started stepping in, before the U.S. Treasury, before the FDIC, before Silicon Valley Bank, Signature Bank, before all that happened, J.P. Morgan Chase was hoarding cash. And now we're being told that it looks like a smart strategic move. What was I saying last year? I'm not telling people to rush out and have a run on the banks, but I said cash is king.
And somebody's like, no, it's not. I don't know why you say that. People always want to argue
with me on that one. But get this. Now, you mentioned the reason why deposits would see a decline is because people are not making the money that they used to. And this one may really blow your mind, but has it gotten so bad to the point of which now your kids have to go to work to help you make ends meet?
I mean, that's been happening a lot lately for people. A lot of parents and even grandparents in a situation where either their Social Security doesn't pay enough, their retirement doesn't pay enough, they don't have enough coming in for whatever else, and kids are having to step in and help out with, okay, well, either you come live with us, that's why multi-generational living kicked back into gear hardcore in the last couple of years, or because you have the 15-year-old who, instead of being able to focus on school, now has to go get a part-time job if they want to keep a roof over their heads, because mom and dad can't do it all with everything else. Like there's a lot more going on now, I would think, financially, like financial woes for more people than there were in the previous years.
Do you think that you would look at a situation like what you just described and have a 15-year-old pulled out of school and just work to try to bridge that gap financially?
That part, no. And the only reason why I say no is because legally you cannot, unless you are also homeschooling them, and you have to go through the steps to homeschool. You have to prove that also. Because if you just pull your kid out of school to work, they could end up being a ward of the state at that point because of laws.
So tell me how this would work out, because CNN has reported and multiple other news outlets have reported that McDonald's has been employing 10-year-olds who have been found working until 2 a.m.
Illegal ones.
As part of an investigation into the child labor law violations in the Southeast, an agency found 3 franchises that own more than 60 McDonald's locations in Kentucky, Indiana, Maryland, and Ohio employed 305 children to work.
Let me tell you, I don't remember which bill it was, but I every day when I get up in the morning and I'm doing my research for Squirrel Tribe, I look under congress.gov to see what new bills have been introduced to, legislature that are either introduced and before they go to the House and then whatever else. And there was one that was introduced in Texas. I want to say April 28th, maybe it was May. I don't remember the exact date, and there's a lot here for me to look through and I can't find it. But it was basically saying they want to pass a bill that requires businesses and government to actually follow labor laws. Certain labor laws is what it said.
Despite the fact that there are laws, now you're required to follow them.
Yeah, certain labor laws. It didn't say all of them. It said certain labor laws. They want to pass a law to ensure that you follow certain labor laws, not all of them. And that bothered me because a lot of times the things you're seeing now, you're seeing more children working overnight in these places. And a lot of times it's immigrants because they need the money, and the companies know that there's no paper trail unless they get caught. There's no paper trail employing these children. And a lot of these children are pulled from their parents at the border. So you have these kids running around with nobody to say no or whatever else. So you've got, it's a dicey situation.
It's a tragedy. It is literally a disaster. Mm-hmm. Louisville McDonald's restaurant among many violations of federal labor laws committed by 3 Kentucky McDonald's franchise operators. And in this release, they said that investigators also determined that 2 of the 10-year-old children were employed at these McDonald's and sometimes worked as late as 2 a.m. But here, get this. It's the worst part.
Okay.
Maybe the worst part. The whole thing is pretty bad. I don't want to make light of the situation, but they were not being paid. They were not even being paid. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you again. New videos and live streams published today. Go check them out. Videos and live streams to help you guys make money, save and invest. Now is a trying time and very, very scary, for lack of better words, in this current economic and financial situation. Please give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, follow us on Instagram, links there for all of our other channels and socials. Join us on Patreon for even more content. We'll see you guys real soon.
Bye.